Hey, welcome to the Terrorverse TV. It's John Altarelli with my good friend John D'Agostino, known as the Johns. Today, we're going to talk about a fairly sensitive topic that people are concerned with. I think everyone's concerned with, and that's sort of how do you survive being canceled? John and I probably have some experiences ourselves. We're going to share a couple of our most difficult ones, and let's see where we go from there. John?
Well, the first step is to survive, just avoid, just don't get canceled. I have some great advice. I've decided I'm cancel proof in the gym. So have you seen this sort of phenomena of like guys like us, middle-aged white guys getting, not just white, but middle-aged guys getting canceled in the gym by mostly young women who film them and accuse them of looking at them?
Right.
Have you seen this, right? There's
Well,
like a whole thing.
I've seen the videos, but
It's like a whole thing.
I'm lucky. The gym I go early in the morning. Everyone there is like so focused on their workout, they don't pay attention to anyone. No one even talks to each other.
So there's this whole thing,
Yeah.
and then there's like a counter to it. There's this like one guy, Joey
Swopes, yeah, I see
Yeah,
that.
he's great, and he goes after the people who try to cancel. This is a whole like
I've seen some. They're almost ridiculous.
It's kind of ridiculous, but it's people are scared. People are scared.
Yeah.
So I've developed a system. It's really great. So this morning I went to my gym, and I take like a boxing class. It's like a jazzercise, not real boxing, but like it's a boxing type class. And I was all set up, and right before the class started, young woman, dressed in a manner that could get one canceled by staring, stepped in front of me, and had her phone set up. She was filming. It was just the exact same. I have no idea if she was going to try to cancel me.
Okay.
The scenario that you've seen 1,000 times on social media. And I said, "Excuse me, miss, you're blocking my view." And I asked her to move so I could stare at myself in the mirror. So vanity is an incredibly effective prophylactic against cancellation. So I highly encourage.
John, no one would have thought of that but you.
I highly encourage, if you can't not be creepy, just be vain. Then you're fine.
Yeah. No, and that's cool. So you're basically making her the one who's like interfering with your.
You're blocking my view. I mean,
What are you doing?
I want to look at myself, not you, right?
What are you doing over here?
Look, it kind of. Actually, that did happen. I'm not even joking.
Oh my God!
But all right. I think we probably disagree on this one. But I actually think that I have not. I don't think it's that hard, to be honest, not to get canceled. I don't think it's that hard. Now we talked before about like there's canceling and then there's having bad information about you on the internet.
Yeah.
The latter, having bad information. We'll get to that in a second. But like, I haven't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but I haven't seen. Al Franken's maybe one example, but I haven't seen evidence that cancellation is really targeting innocent people.
Well, okay, but when you say innocent, I think again, I have no way of knowing the actual data. I'm going to try to do some research on it, but I hear as I started to research this thing that we're doing. As you know, this was something that people have been twisting my arms for a long time, and I've been reluctant to do this because I like to be private. And when my privacy got taken away from me, it was problematic.
Yeah.
My whole life I tried to live under the radar, particularly since lawyers in my generation were not even allowed to advertise and to have your name in the news. By the way, if you went on TV as a lawyer at my caliber,
you were a joke.
You were a joke.
I remember
you
that.
were a joke.
Yeah.
Anyone that was on TV was a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
In finance, if you were on CNBC in like the 90s, you were a loser.
Right. So you never would do that. You would lose all your credibility in the community. We didn't advertise. We didn't want our names known. We never took political positions because we had clients all over the map.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is take a position one day.
What did Michael Jordan say? Republicans buy sneakers too?
Yeah.
What was that?
Exactly. So I did everything I could to stay under the radar. And it wasn't hard because, frankly, who cares about a bunch of corporate lawyers in New York? We're not newsworthy unless you stick your neck out. Now that I'm sticking my neck out, I'm sure I'm putting myself into the cancel culture. But you're right. There's a difference between being canceled. I hear a lot of people saying if you take any position, left or right, today, YouTube is demonetizing. I mean, you hear this. I don't know if it's true. I mean, because I personally haven't
Depends on the
experienced.
position. I mean,
But what if you just take it? What if you just say, "Hey, I like Trump"? Should you be canceled for that, or I don't like Trump?
No, I don't think anybody has been for saying.
Oh,
that.
okay.
I don't see the.
I hear you, except that they're saying they are. So either they're all lying.
I think they're lying.
All of them?
I think the ones who are saying that they're being demonetized for saying I like Pelosi or I like Trump.
But look at all the people who were fired from news media. Tons of people were fired.
Again,
Bill
I
O'Reilly.
think if you look into the details of why they got fired, didn't he get fired for sexual harassment?
Maybe he did. I don't remember.
Pretty sure.
But a lot. Okay.
John,
You're right. I don't know the details.
I remember when Me Too started. Me Too started. before it got co-opted. And these things always turn into bad things. Like, but when it first started, I was thrilled because I didn't know a single guy in Wall Street and finance who got taken down by early Me Too or mid-stage Me Too that didn't fucking deserve it. They were all, and by the way, even it's like Capone for taxes. Even if like the thing that they got taken down for maybe wasn't as legit, I knew they were assholes, and I knew they were guys I didn't want the young women at my firm working for or with, and I damn well knew I didn't want my daughters working for a son of a bitch like that. So again, and I'm speaking on my own sample set, and I'm sure there were cases. I'm sure there were cases of weaponized Me Too. I'm sure. I think they were rare. I think they were super rare, and it's unfortunate. But I think the vast majority of folks who are getting taken out, like, and I say really taken out, like, Louis C.K. is not canceled. He just sold out Madison Square Garden. Like the people who have really been, like, their careers have been stripped from them. I just don't see evidence that, for the most part, vast majority, didn't deserve it.
Well, when you look at, let's start with Me Too. So I think you're right on the Me Too, although I have a different perspective because prior to Me Too, there was plenty of people who were accused of stuff that wasn't true. Okay, as a corporate lawyer, I've dealt with hundreds upon hundreds of investigations that we've done. Were cases ready. It got to be the point. That's why Me Too didn't really change anything for me. And I kind of agree with you. The people that I saw that got nailed, I was happy.
They were gross.
And it took a Me Too movement to get there.
They're assholes, yeah.
Because they were never going to get it through what I was dealing with. When you get a claim against the company, we come in, we investigate it, we settle no matter what the claim is because you don't want to have this out there.
It was quiet.
So it was easy to get. If you were someone who wanted to hold a company for hostage, it was very easy.
Yeah.
I also know that the vast majority of sexual harassment never got brought to the forefront.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so hundreds of claims versus millions of incidents.
Exactly. I'm a man. I see the stuff. I've been around. And I've had to deal with people in my own team. I've had to correct people. I had a lot of women in my team, and it was very important that they felt safe.
Yeah.
And in our corporate environment, it's tough. At the same time, I can't tell women that they can't can't have a relationship with a guy that might be on the team. I mean, it's hard. I mean, they're human beings, right? And as long as it wasn't a power dynamic or someone was doing something that wasn't consensual.
And it's still happening, by the way.
Oh, of course it is.
I had this happen like in the last 6 months, where I was at a corporate party, not my company, but like a different corporate party, and talking to a young woman, and we're at the bar. And all of a sudden, I felt she kind of stiffened up, and she got really weird. And she had a tear in her eye. And she said, "I said, you're okay?" And she said, "Can we move away?" And I was like, "Okay." We moved away, and she was still talking, but she was really, really upset. And I was like, this is a little weird for me. Like, you have to tell me what's wrong, right? I have to leave. And she said, so I said, "Oh, the guy behind me at the bar slapped me in the ass." Now, this is a corporate event of a company I know, and I went to walk over to her, and what idiot would have done that? She was apoplectic. She was like begging me, "Please don't do anything." Yeah. And I'm like, "Look, I know the guy who owns this company. Right. I can't." So I went over to the guy, a kid. We're supposed to be the ones slapping asses. We're supposed to be the idiots.
Well,
right?
because we're too old to know any better, right? Yeah.
But this kid, and I confronted him. And I asked him where he worked. I knew the company. And I said, "Great." I pulled out my phone. I said, "You know this guy?" He said, "Yeah, it's my boss's boss." I'm like, "Great. I'm about to call." It was late. It was like midnight. I'm about to wake him up. And by the way, his wife is a ball breaker, so trust me, it's not going to go well. I'm going to explain to him what just happened. I'm going to hand the phone to you, and you're going to be fired. And boy, did this kid sober up. And I said, the only reason this isn't happening, the only reason your life isn't fucking over right now is that young lady has made me swear on my mother I wouldn't do it because she doesn't want to see him. So you're going to go over to her, you're going to apologize, you're going to pay for her drinks, you can get the fuck out of here right now. And I was walking him out. I couldn't help myself. I was like, what? Why? How are you? Like, you're supposed to be woke. You're in your mid-20s. How could you do this? Like, because by the way, as shitty as it is, I could have gotten away with this when I was your age. Your life is, I make this phone call and your life is done. You're never getting a job anywhere ever again. So my point in telling that story was it's still happening. And it's disgusting.
Right.
And that's why I don't get too upset about the Me Too stuff, about the extreme elements of it, which I agree has gotten over the show, because that shit's still there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you and I both know of a recent example of someone who was inappropriate with one of our female friends, right? Yeah. An older fellow who has to be straightened out and will be. think that that's good. That you and I are on the same
And
page there.
she and the woman who he was doing to is also like begging up, down, left, right, and
Yeah.
center. Don't do anything.
I
Don't
know.
do anything.
I can't honor her wishes on that one, John, because it's just.
Well, we have to. We have to.
Well,
we
he's
have
in
to
our,
honor her.
He came through our
anonymity.
group. I can't do that. So
We can't have him around us anymore.
I told her that. So,
but we can honor her anonymity,
yeah, of course.
and we will.
So we'll take it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the other two. So the Me Too, I'm fine with it too, because I think at least of the ones I saw, they kind of all deserved it, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't think it reached down.
Al Franken
people.
was messed up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was the one that I saw. Just
I think maybe
punishment didn't fit
the
the
punishment
crime,
didn't fit the crime, but I don't think he was a.
He should have had something. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
I agree with
Apology.
that.
Yeah, but yeah.
Exactly. I don't think the punishment fit the crime, but he
At
was,
least what I know.
Well, at least what he said. Yeah. But I don't think that drifted down to people, just being used as a tool against every guy
I'm
out
sure
there.
there was some false claims, but like
Yeah, I don't know,
just
but
think on a percentage basis.
I think those were
yeah,
there.
immaterial.
When I say those were there regardless, it wasn't the Me Too
Yeah.
movement, in my view, that started. Those tend to be employment claims. People get fired today.
They throw them.
If you're in a category,
Yeah.
you just throw them out there. Why not? You're gonna get extra an extra. And I mean not just sexual aspect. You're gonna get gender. You're gonna get race-based claims. And now if you're over 50 years old, everyone over 50 is making a claim.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. I don't think many people are being fired because of their age. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, there could be a case. I mean, some of the cases where they won, where the higher paid people happen to be of a certain age, and they got rid of them. But in my view, when you get old, you're subject to being booted out because it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
It's just
Behind the times. Yeah, you're not. If you don't stay relevant,
I mean, look, football, you don't get to stay when you're 50.
you can't
Right?
be in finance and say I'm not going to use computers. Like that's not. That's
Well,
not
You
or we
kind of
have-
age out. I don't think you have a claim to be hung around because you've been there.
I agree.
All right, so I'm not that.
I
I'm
agree.
old. If you want to fire me because I'm old, I guess I'm okay with that. I always thought
But if
that
you're
was
old,
strange.
but if you're old and you look, we started the Terrorverse Salon because both of us wanted to stay relevant on modern issues.
Well, the bottom line is either I'm a productive. By the way, if I'm productive, I'm not getting fired.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I'm still hanging in there is I'm productive. I know the minute
Yeah.
I'm not productive, no one's going to give a shit about me.
If you need to learn AI and generative AI in order to be productive, you will. And you are.
Absolutely, it's exactly what I'm doing because I won't be productive very soon without that. So that's good.
My 15-year-old nephew and I have a great relationship, and his job on our threads and chats is to keep me culturally relevant. So he's teaching me all the slang that Gen Alpha are using. That way I can communicate with my kids and kind of be generally aware.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
It's important.
That's like
But
learning. I was terrible at languages, John.
You can't go live in Spain and not know some basic Spanish.
I know, but you understand that's my problem. I'm terrible at languages now. I got to learn a whole new language here.
You have to learn.
I get it. I'm trying my best.
It's important.
I know what ick means.
No cap.
No cap. I got that one.
You got that one?
Oh yeah, I got that one, John. I got like 2 or 3 of them.
Now we can't use them too much because that's cringy.
Yeah, well,
but we gotta know them.
Yeah, there you go. 3 big ones. All right, so let's talk about the other 2 categories, which I think are even more concerning to me. One is if it's just politically motivated. So you're on one side of the aisle or not.
Yeah.
People are going to take issue with you and you could try to cancel you, demonetize you. So if you're not with the mainstream point of view, you could
What's
get
main?
canceled.
This country is split down the middle. So
Yeah.
what's mainstream?
Well, it depends on what media you're on. I guess if you're a righty,
Yeah,
the left is going to
that's
shut you
true.
down. If you're on the
Yeah.
left, the righty's going to shut you down. So, look, I don't know, but all I hear is cancel culture. So I'm going to look into it and see if it's real or not. But it sounds like it might be real, and we should talk about that. But the other kind, which I know is real because you and I both have personally experienced it, is if this is the problem with the media and the internet, is you can get a false statement made about you, and it never goes away.
Yes.
And then I'm going to leave aside our whole issue we're having with Scott Stornetta, who's going to try to tell us how this is going to get solved through putting all the information.
Well, we had
out
it with
there.
the Terrorverse Salon.
So I'm saying I want to get into. I'm still not there, as you know, because I just see the harm. I see it in my own life of once it gets out there, it becomes a problem. You can never erase it, and even if it's not true, you can't counteract it. So I want to talk about those because to me those are the most difficult ones. I think the politics ones, I guess you'll find your home, right? Because you can always just go on the other side, right? If you can cancel from one media sample, you go on the other side.
You got
right?
the other half of the country.
Right. So you're still gonna have a following.
It's a shame, but that bifurcates the nation. It bifurcates relationships. So that's
But the
problem,
ones that just attack your person, your professional life, your personality, whatever they attack, and those are not politically motivated, but maybe financially or business-wise or whatever it is. 'Cause a lot of it happens. I mean, I get people coming to me all the
media
time.
needs to feed, right? It
Yeah.
needs interesting stories.
I've had to defend people.
Right.
I'm leaving myself off for a moment. We'll get to my story. But, people who have been defamed, literally defamed, that they can't defend themselves, reputations ruined, careers ruined. I've had enough of that. I've seen enough. I've tried to defend it. It's very, very tough. And with the internet, even if you win, you're done.
Doesn't matter.
Because no one looks and finds out that the 3 years after you had the allegation that you won the lawsuit, you're completely vilified, and boom, boom, no one cares, okay?
And you can sue anyone for any reason. So
For any reason. And when I try to tell people, they always say, well, how could they say that in a pleading?
say anything you want.
In a pleading,
I learned that.
You could get away with saying absolute lies and defame people.
What's the phrase? Upon fact or belief.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a speculation.
Yeah.
Yeah, information and belief. And you could get away with actual defamation, and it's not sanctionable.
Right, you can't sue someone. You can't. Correct
the
me if
best
I'm
way
wrong.
to-
You
yeah.
cannot. I learned this during
Yeah.
the lawsuit. You cannot sue someone for libel or slander if it's said within the confines of a lawsuit. Is that
Yes,
correct?
with the sort of lead in
Mostly correct, yeah.
upon information and belief,
And the reason to do that, as I learned, is to try to force a settlement. Because if I load up the
all of
claim with ridiculous nonsense,
every lawsuit that's about that is full of salacious. You ought to see this. I mean, I've had people put pictures of naked women
yeah,
in a pleading. I had never seen pictures in a pleading.
Yeah.
Where they tried to embarrass the other side by putting these pictures in, and I was shocked. But there's no lows to which lawyers today won't go. There was a time, and I'm not saying that us boomers were the best, but there was a real concern about sanctions. There was Rule 11. There were real sanctions against making false claims in a pleading, but they're so hard to get courts to do that. So it's hard. But your firm wouldn't allow you to do it.
Right.
Like a big white shoe New York firm, they were not putting that in there.
Right.
And even in the responses, I get there's times when I want to kill the other side because I know you can. The lawyers, my litigation, I'm not a litigator.
even if it was effective.
Even if it was effective, and even if it was true, there were just things they wouldn't do. They always wanted to be cordial. They wanted to be professional, and because they think the judge will be upset. Judges were the
So there's
sort of
a famous story. When I was a kid, I used to read it. I was really into baseball, so I read all these baseball stories. And there was a story about Babe Ruth. Apparently, it was back in the day when he had a peak of his fame, when they were traveling on train. They had the press in the train, and the press had their own car. And the story goes that Babe Ruth, the train door opens up, and a completely naked Babe Ruth comes sprinting through, followed by a completely naked woman holding a knife. And the story goes that once they both exited the train, all the journalists looked at each other and said, it's a good thing we didn't see what we just saw, otherwise we'd have to write about it. It plays into this notion that there was a time when law, media, journalism, probably finance were more, I don't know if it's ethical or more discreet or more genteel, civilized. I get it, but was it really? Was it better?
I think, John, it was at least in the public documents. A lot of these fights happen behind the scenes, John. And then I think that the gloves are kind of off behind the scenes. People exert power, they always have.
Yeah.
So they might exert power, you wouldn't even know it.
Right.
Like the bankers may be called up on the phone saying, hey, this guy's done, right? And he's done. Right. So I think they did it. They just did it sort of differently. And I think the same thing with politicians. Politicians made a lot of stupid mistakes, but they tended to try to keep that out of the news. The media used to protect them to some extent.
Right.
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the way it was. So I'm just trying to compare that to now. Everything comes out, trash, good, bad, or the otherwise. And if it's not germane to the issue, it shouldn't be there. No, it's bringing someone's personal or their family into somebody's business world. That's not right. It's not germane. If it's germane, it's different.
Yeah. Understood. Now, so you and I both had, I'd say neither of us had really intense, focused attempts to cancel. We both had,
not in the sense of what today's canceling,
right?
But we
both had information put out about us. Me more as part of a business failure,
right?
You more as I think it was tougher for you because it was more personal for you.
But it was a business failure that ended up going after me personally.
Because you were quite frankly, because you were at a much higher level than I was. I kind of got buried in.
Yeah, you got sucked into it. Yes,
I was in my 20s.
But you were not the top guy.
And I was not the top guy. Where you were the top
guy.
The top earner. You were the name that they could go after. So you saw that media apparatus, you know, in a very tiny way, we saw this with the Terrorverse article. Where like, I remember that morning we woke up and they'd written about it. We were like, my reaction was, why is this newsworthy? This is like
I know,
a dinner
a
party.
little dinner
This is
party.
ridiculous. And when I spoke to one of the journalists who agreed to talk to me off the record, and I asked him that, I'm like, dude, this is a dinner party with 60 people in New York City, like. I drive a Mazda, man. Like I'm not a Wall Street elitist. Like what? And he acknowledged to me. He said, "Because it's sexy.
Well,
Because it's New York. It's finance. It's yeah."
We should start with that story, John, because we
All right,
both.
let's give the quick background.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to give it?
Yeah, do that
So
story.
as people might know, for the last 2 years we've been having this. You know, I call it a glorified dinner party, but it's turned into something wonderful, which is basically a salon. We invite people over to your lovely apartment. We feed them some hors d'oeuvres. We give them some good alcohol, and then we have an expert, and we interview that expert on an interesting tech or technology or legal or financial idea. We've covered AI, crypto, military applications, cutting edge technology, and they're wonderful. They're lovely. It's a place for people to come together. We call it the Terrorverse. It's a play on metaverse. The tagline is dedicated to the radical proposition that people want to be around people, and you know it satisfies different things. For John, it's about staying. You know, it's both of us about staying relevant. For me, I also believe there's this pandemic of loneliness in New York City, and bringing people together is my way of fighting that. Anyway, we've done it for 2 years. Very nerdy, very wonky, and then for our end of year 2023 one. We wanted to talk about conspiracy theories and how they're kind of ripping this country apart. And not that all of them are fake, but some of them are real. And I was going to bring in a neuroscientist to talk about why we believe certain things. But John, through his military connections, got this amazing guy, David Grush, who was the CIA whistleblower. And we had this wonderful salon. It was packed to the rafters, 100 people, really fun conversation. John believes more of that. I believe less. It was great. It was perfect. And we go to sleep. And I guess somebody's kid, literally a kid, because it was a family event, wrote about it on Reddit. And overnight, it got moved to Twitter. Twitter picked it up, and then the British newspapers wrote articles. We woke up to like 5 articles in the Daily Mail, the Guardian. My phone was ringing off the hook, and they were all the same bullshit, like elite Wall Street gathering with CIA whistleblower David Grush. And I just woke up to a barrage of phone calls. They identified us immediately. They knew where I worked, where you used to work, and there was nothing. We agreed. There was nothing negative in the kid. Actually wrote a good summary.
No, it was accurate. It was accurate. If you read it, if you ever
It was
find
just embarrassing.
it was accurate.
It was salacious, and it just made it. They did everything they could to make it sound like this, like cabal, this Illuminati bullshit.
Well, because it got picked up by the conspiracy theorists, and they need to sort of make connections, right?
On their end, they went nuts too. YouTube channels, everything.
So they called us Wall Street bigwigs. They called me the CIA Cosa Nostra. It was, I mean, it was kind of funny. And then they took me because they look up your history on the internet, and this ties into where we're going to go, and they picked up the fact that I had. And we'll get into this sordid tale that I had dated for just a short period of time the Redheaded Russian Spy, who was part of the sleepers that got traded in 2010 or 11.
Crazy time in our lives.
So here's how they did this. They took me, they took the CIA, then they took her, and then they said, well, she's friends with this other woman who was having an affair with Bill Gates, and Bill Gates knows Epstein. So now I'm tied to, I don't even know either one of Gates or Epstein or this other girl, but this guy saying, I connected the dots, so I'm now part of this cabal, and I'm part of the inside.
So the reality is there's now there's some guy probably in his mom's basement with a YouTube video making some ridiculous, connection between you.
Yeah, he's holding the pictures up, me. And
so your fear is...
He's got the little pins.
Right, so your fear is that could negatively impact people's opinions of you. If they were to come across
but it does. I mean, people who don't know me, they tend to believe what they read on the internet.
But let me give you an alternative read.
Yeah.
Let me give you an alternative read. Anyone can say anything. So I think you're underestimating people's ability to discern reality. So my concern would be if we invited someone to the Terrorverse salon, they came across one of those Daily Mail articles. Again, if they read it, they would see there was nothing salacious in the article. But they might be turned off just by the overall tone. So I think we would lose 10% of people just because I don't want to be a part of anything that could be written up in the newspaper. I think that's fair. But I don't think any reasonable person, if somebody looks you up and looks up your background, because you know what else they're going to see? When Dewey and LaBeouf collapsed and you started that fund for all those secretaries and janitors and everybody, they're going to see that. They're going to see the deals you've been a part of. They're going to see the good public works you've done. We are not our worst article, John.
Agree, but as I can give you factual information on this because I've suffered it myself.
Right.
There is no question that I have lost clients, ability to get clients. I have avoided being on any public boards. I've avoided lots of things in my life because of if you go out there and people read that, they're not going to let you go out there. They're just not. So the big institutions are terrified, and that's the world I work in.
That's fair.
So I've had a lot of problems. The only reason why I overcome it, John, is because I'm good enough and enough people who knew me who really only care about making money and doing what they do, and they want to have the best lawyer that they know in this world to deal with it, and they also know that I'm not afraid. I've kept enough business to keep my life going. But if it had just been, if I hadn't been that guy, I would have been out of business. And it came close.
But you've told me before, you want to, you're a risk taker.
Yeah, but I didn't take that risk.
You're a risk taker.
That was not a risk I took.
There's something to be said. Look, not as much as you, but I've had a rocky. There are I've had mother rock. I've been parts of massive failures. Let me pose it this way: do you think there's an alternative life you could have led, where you could have been true to yourself and been a risk taker, and not have granted, we probably, you and I probably went a little bit overboard, but don't you think our lives were always going to be a little bit salacious?
Of course. No, I run into like crazy situations, John. I'm not
you run into the building. You run the building's on fire.
Anything.
You run in.
And I'm not afraid of anything, John.
Do you think there's any way we were going to hit our 50s without some of that stuff?
But you know what, John? I would have liked it if been for something I actually did.
All right, fair enough.
Okay?
Fair enough. But you did date her.
Okay, so I dated her, but it wasn't like I knew she was a spy.
None of us knew she was a spy.
You were worried, not about being a spy. You thought she was something else. But anyway, you didn't like her. You have to admit.
I didn't like her. But
you just thought she was a regular
John,
Russian gold digger, which I thought so too.
Let's not. All Russians are not gold diggers, but
A1,
yes. I thought she was Russian. And I thought she was a gold digger, but I didn't think she was good for you. There was none of us knew she was a spy. No one.
No.
Who the hell would think that?
Well, she was the worst spy I ever met. Then
we woke up that day and our lives changed with my phone ringing, your phone ringing.
Like I said, John, I'm willing to suffer the consequences of my actions.
Okay.
Because that's what a risk taker does. But at the same time, what I don't like, and what the internet does for you, is it creates an indelible record of something you didn't do. And I'll talk about some of the lies that were made about me that were just flat out lies. And I can't defend myself from them.
Let's give me two examples. Example. Start with one example.
Well, that story that they wrote. Okay, so if you remember what happened was, the spy thing was done and gone, and it never came out in the media. Even though I had to go immediately and disclose to all my clients and my firm and my family, so I suffered a tremendous amount of embarrassment. I was depressed. I was devastated. I had no idea what would happen. Yeah. There were days when I thought it was over.
Scary,
I thought for sure I would be fired.
Yeah.
I thought for sure my career was over. Yeah. And I wasn't sure my family was going to back me up. Yeah. Okay, so I had to go through all of that. And because no matter how it looks, as innocent as you and I know it was, it doesn't come off that way. Everyone's going to find something negative.
Of course.
I must have known. What was I doing with, whatever. So that I couldn't get rid of, and it worried me. But then when I survived it, I thought it was great. Done. Everyone that knew about it, and no one had an issue. I didn't lose my job. I didn't lose my clients. I didn't lose my family. That was great. 2 years later, I'm at the biggest firm, one of the best, oldest firms in the world. They end up doing stupid stuff, mismanaged the firm, and I helped them all the way. I deferred my comp. I paid my own bonuses out of my pay to my lawyers and to my staff.
I remember that.
I did everything I could.
You did.
I carried that firm through the worst of the financial crisis, through 2006 through 2012. Yeah. All that, I had the Capmark bankruptcy, so I had all this work coming in. I kept tons of people working. And then they go bankrupt because of their mismanagement. And then I get called in to testify in front of the grand jury for the prosecution.
Okay.
So they were terrified that I was going to.
And they attacked you.
So then the next thing you know, the very next day, that article comes out. So I know where it came from.
They attacked you,
And they said really nasty things in there and things that are salacious and just wrong. And And you can't take that back. And at the time I was at a firm, I couldn't respond. They wouldn't let me respond. Lawyers don't respond to that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had to sit there and take that, knowing what was going on, knowing what the motivation was. And that did cause a problem.
Yeah.
Okay? That caused a massive problem. And I was lucky enough because at the same time where I was trying to deal with the Dewey bankruptcy and trying to get 60 people jobs and secretaries' jobs, I was trying to move to another firm. Thank God I found the firm that was like smart and you know, and open to it.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of firms I couldn't talk to.
Yeah.
That a year previously were begging me to go there.
Yeah.
So there was a huge problem. And then, you know, and then every time I have a relationship with someone or try to have a relationship, I have to disclose that like on day one. And I've had women not want to be with me because they just don't want to hear the story. I've had clients say, you know, I've had people attack me. And every deal I do, if the other side wants to attack me, they do. They attack me every time. Now, most of the times it doesn't matter because I'm already too far into the deal and my clients aren't going to fire me because they know better. But they try. They tried all the time, John. So it's never going away. It's a problem. I could never tell my side of the story. I had to just suffer all those years, and it was bad. Now, I didn't get canceled, thank God. I paid a huge price, though.
Because there's an alternative narrative, right?
What's that?
John, she was tasked with something. She was tasked
Well,
with...
it wasn't tasked with getting me.
I disagree.
Oh,
she was tasked with getting important people.
Yes, true enough. I was just a person on the list, right? Yeah, she was supposed to she needed validation, John, to be here. I get
John,
that.
if you were not successful, if you were not the best at what you do...
No, she wouldn't be around
She
me.
would not have
No, she was looking for top dogs.
That was her job.
Absolutely.
Her job was to date people of influence and individuals who would have access to information that were potentially useful.
Not me. No, that's wrong. I disagree. I don't have information she could use.
But she thought you would. John, you were the lawyer to. You were the lawyer to. I know she didn't get anything.
Because financial information, they want government information.
What's that?
They want government.
No,
right?
they want John. You were lawyer to some of the most powerful people in the country. She needed to surround the parties we used to throw back then.
That's true.
That was a spy's dream. Like, so I do think there's a counter narrative here, which is two things. One is if you lead a life where you're willing to take risk. First of all, I don't know any successful person who hasn't been sued. And I don't know any person who hasn't been successful person who hasn't been sued where the lawsuit has been ugly, number one. Secondly, if you lead a life of taking personal and professional risks, you are going to run into, now again, you and I have probably gone to an extreme in that. But what I can say, John, is that for every quote unquote negative thing that exists about you or I, none of it is where we try to harm anyone or things are just, for me, it was being a part at a young age of a massive business failure. Historic business failure. And I can turn around and say, oh, I was only a kid. But I was a part of it. I was a junior partner. I owned, less than 5%, but I was a junior partner. And, but what I can say is that, we never took a dime that wasn't owed to us. Right? So when people bring up that failure to me, I say, well, I'm glad it happened because I learned from it at a young age. There was no impropriety. There's no stealing money from investors. We just failed. We failed. We thought we were smarter than we were, and we failed miserably. And I'm proud of the fact that several of those investors who lost a shitload of money in our hedge fund are my references to this day, because I did something that you would have probably killed me for. You know what I did?
What?
Oh, the lawyers hated this. I sent an email out.
You never take my advice, even though
I sent an email out. I was 23. I sent an email out to we had 120 investors. So I sent an email out one day. It was like the peak of it. I was on phone. I was getting called an asshole in 10 different languages because I was the face of the firm. And I sent an email out to everyone saying, I'm so sorry this happened. A couple of things. I lost everything, which I did. I lost everything. I was fully invested. Here's my home address. Here's my home phone number. I'm not running away. Please be patient because all of you are calling me. I will call you back.
Wow.
I'm convinced to this day it's the reason. We had one lawsuit, which we won.
Yep.
But I'm convinced it's the reason we didn't have 50 lawsuits.
Right.
And I'm convinced it's the reason that I'd say for 95% of those investors, I still have a good relationship with. Because they call you an asshole the first time. They call you an asshole the 10th time. And by the 15th phone call, they're glad that you're actually there.
Yeah.
It'd be easy just to run. And you didn't run. You didn't run either. You didn't run either.
Well, John, here's the thing. You say we take risks. I take the risk I take is I'm willing to try things that most people wouldn't try. But you know me, I'm scrupulous about the ethics and the principles, okay? You know me, I live my life by a set of core principles. And as I've told many people, principles only matter when they're inconvenient. Okay, so the only time it's going to matter is when you're up against it. You have to stick to your principles, because most people fold their principles the minute this comes in. The Dewey example was a perfect example. Rather than sit there and stay the course, my partners ran like little babies into the corner and ran away.
You could have counterattacked.
Yeah, but I won't. Look, I know what I do is perfectly legitimate. I can defend it against anyone's come to me. My clients love and hate me, because at the same time I give them great advice, I always stop them from going that one step.
So let's talk
over
about
the
advice.
line.
What if most people listening are not gonna be a part of $1 billion hedge fund blow up or have dated a Russian spy? But what advice would you give someone who has a professional, whatever the career is, and they have something happen to them? Put aside, if you're an asshole, my advice is
No,
go
it's a good question,
die.
John, because I actually now have a thought on that.
Yeah. So what advice would you give someone who has bad information, salacious bad information out there in the ether?
When I look, and I tell people this, because when this happened, because as had happened to some of my clients in different ways, they've been attacked, they've been sued, and they've had this moment. What I tell them is, because I have personal experience now, when it happens, you think it's over, you think your life's over, you think you're done. You're gonna, I thought about, taking a step off.
My wife found pills.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny it. I
planned everything out. Yeah,
I was so embarrassed for my family. I thought it'd be better just to take a little leap, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm not that kind of guy. Okay, I'm not afraid of anything. But it wasn't for me. I just felt I was embarrassing my family, and I had to do something about it. And I remember those deep dark days. I remember, this summer I would just sit outside at my house in Connecticut, because I couldn't even bear to even come to the city.
I
Sometimes
couldn't get up. I was on the couch.
I would just sit there, and I would just look at the sky, and I would just I didn't know what to do. I was completely paralyzed.
So it was all for me. It was the idea of wasted potential.
Yeah.
I thought I threw it all away.
And I said, look, I worked so hard to get here. I've been so squeaky clean on everything I do.
Yeah.
I care about everything, doing it right. I drive my clients crazy. John, you know how I am. Like you said, I look for the pennies, okay?
You drove me crazy.
I drive people crazy on the accuracy, even if it's not material, right? So I look at my life, I say, how in the world am I in this boat, okay? And then you're there, and then what happens?
You were a single man who dated a woman.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was the part you had to keep remembering.
Yeah.
You did nothing wrong.
I just got bad choice in women, John. You know that. Anyway, so for a while it hurt. And then I got over that one, right? And then the Dewey thing was like, holy shit, double down, even worse. I had to file bankruptcy because I couldn't get them off the suit, because they were going to make me the child. John, the things they did to me.
Biggest earner there.
John, the things they did to me, you can't even imagine. Do you know they came to my house to inventory my house in a personal bankruptcy? They didn't even do that to anybody, like Trump or anyone. It's never been done.
Yeah.
They wanted me so bad. And the good thing was I disclosed, if you remember my disclosure, it was on the internet. I disclosed 2,600 items, 90 pages of disclosure, down to how many socks I had, because you have to list all your assets. Wow. I listed everything. I went through room by room in my house, took pictures of every single thing, vases, chairs, carpets.
Wow.
And I had to go price all that stuff out.
Jeez.
Okay? It took me months to put that together. And even though I gave that much detail, which my lawyer said, why are you doing this, John? No one does that. They only care about, do you have a car, do you have a house, do you have a bank account? I said, no, I think they're going to come after me, because these people are not, it's not about me. It's about, they're trying to break me. So I did all the disclosure.
What you represent, or what?
No, it was the trustee in the bankruptcy, the Dewey trustee. Because remember, I represented all the retiree guys and a bunch of partners who were also being squeezed. And I paid all the legal fees to keep them going. And I actually settled every single suit.
You made it more difficult for them.
I settled I got everybody a settlement but me. Yeah. Because I told them, I remember the last 2 days, there was like 3 of us left. And I called the other 2 guys up, because I said, okay, it's over. We're not going to win. They're never going to give up. Yeah. I said, I'm going to get you a settlement. You got to take it, because they want me. They don't give a shit about you. Take the settlement, because they were going to fight it all the way to the end with me. And I said, don't do it. I says, I'm going to take a knee. They got me. There's nothing they can do. I'm not going to win. They're going to melt me down. I don't have any more money to pay for fees. Yeah. So you guys get your settlement, and then 3 days later, it was over. They got their deal. So I got everybody. I got everybody a job. Everybody a job. So I feel good about my.
What advice? So what advice do you have?
So my advice is that it's going to take time. Okay. You're going to suffer, but at the end of the day, if you're a good person and you know you are good, and you have a good family, you've got good friends around you, they will be enough to sustain you, and you can survive anything.
So would you tell somebody that that initial when it happens, there's sort of a cloud that comes over. I remember I couldn't get up to eat. I couldn't think and call that like I believe in depression. I believe I wasn't on medication. I didn't go to therapy, but I support people who do.
Yeah.
Actually, I did. I went to therapy for when she found the pills. My wife was like, you got to either you have to go take care of yourself, or I'm going to leave you, because I was going to kill myself. So I did go to therapy for a week, and that helped a lot. But so is the advice that initial cloud, did you want to reach out? Should people reach out?
Yes.
I think it's whatever they need to do.
Yes.
Reach out, exercise.
The problem is I did have some
Action
people reach
begets
out,
action, yeah.
but at the same time, because of what it was, a lot of people just sat on the sidelines to see how it would shake out.
Right, but those aren't your real friends.
They are and they aren't, John. People are just afraid. John, I'm sorry to say this, they're afraid. You know, my family didn't do that, obviously, my close friends. But, I mean, people who over the years have now, you know, probably even regretted not being there. And a lot of people say good things. A lot of people said this. But at the end of the day, John, I could have used, and I'm sure you could have, like, you know, I know I was there with you. I would every minute of the day, I probably could have used some more of that. You know, some more people, you know,
so
sitting with me.
Reach out. If you thrive off of human contact, reach out.
Right, and if you know someone that's in that boat, do the extra. Don't just call them and say it's okay. Get over there and go see them, because there was just days where I was alone, literally alone.
And that's when the darkness comes in, right? Yeah.
And people don't know, because you know you're not showing. I'm not showing it on the outside. I'm trying to be stoic about the whole thing. Yeah. But not having that, and then. Yeah. What really hurt me, and you got to let this go. You're right. Who's not your friends? You're going to find that out. Yeah. And because those people are going to not. Yeah. They're going to distance themselves, and you know what? Cut them the F out, and don't ever be in that boat again.
The one thing I remember the therapist that was great is I had a really bad day one day where I had just a relapse, and I was gonna do it, and it was over the stupidest thing. It was this broker that used to kiss my ass when I was, you know, partner at a $1 billion hedge fund, and I needed him for something, and I called him like 10 times. He wouldn't return my call. And something about that just broke me. I'm like, that was like the epitome of like, that was like what I was scared of. It's like I've become irrelevant. Like, so I went from like him kissing my ass, you know, to I can't get this broker to call me back. And I remember I came home, I put my fist through the wall. I told Sharon, like, the guy you thought you met when you met me at Harvard Business School and you thought we had this life, like, I'm a loser, you know, leave. Like, this is your chance to find someone better than me. And I went and she said, you got to go to the therapist. You got to go to the therapist. I went to the therapist, and she was great. She said, this is back in the BlackBerry days. She goes, how many contacts do you have in your BlackBerry? I was like, 9,000. She goes, that's ridiculous. Human beings can't have that. She goes, I want you to go, your exercise is go home, go through every single one, and everybody who's in your phone, because you were where you were, erase them. That was the reason they were there. Erase them. Because I want you to get that down to like 750 people. And she's like, it's going to be hard. And then she said, think about concentric circles. Your inner circle is your family and the people who like, and if you're in that inner circle, if you call me and say, drop everything and come to Taiwan, I'm doing it. So how many people can that be? A dozen, maybe, right? How many people could you have that you would drop everything for? That's your inner circle. Then you have your next big circle. That could be like, I forget the numbers, but let's call another like 50 people. Those are people who you stay in touch with. They're an important part of your life. You'd help them, but you can't drop everything for them. Then you got one more circle, which is like, you know, acquaintances, people like, hey, this guy might be useful to me from a business perspective. He's funny, right? He just brings something you like. But, you know, you don't see him that often, and that's a couple hundred people. She goes, beyond that, we don't have the capacity to have thousands of people in our life. And that stuck with me for almost 20 years now. So I think you're right. I think if it happens to you, find your thing. Action begets action. Yeah. Right? Whatever it is. If you Tony Robbins, work out, go party, whatever, but get the fuck off your ass. Yeah, yeah. Because those days, and if it doesn't happen to you, if it's your friend, more than a phone call or a text.
Yeah. I think, let me ask you, because and then we should wrap it up in a couple minutes, but what bothered you the most? For me, it wasn't me. It was I didn't give a shit. I've lived my life with, if you can't kill me, I'm not worried about it, right? You say whatever you want about me. You want to do whatever you want. I could care less. You know, I could care less. However, when it spills over to your family, to your colleagues, to your friends and clients, and this is sort of, what I felt was I was feeling bad for what they were going through, having been associated with me. That was what was killing me. I didn't care about me. Yeah. And that I couldn't shake it, John.
So it happened to me before kids. So I'm trying to put myself in that position where if something would happen today that I felt I was being publicly embarrassed, and I knew that my 10-year-old would see, because she sees, she goes,
Yeah, you can't erase it.
Somebody put a Wikipedia page up about me, and she came home one day and she was like, "Daddy, you're famous." And I'm not gonna lie, like, it was like, I remember like dying, crying of pride. But if she came home and said, "Daddy, I saw this about you on the internet," I mean, the Wikipedia page has the Mother Rock failure, but you know, she's too young to understand what that means.
Yeah.
But if there was something bad about me and she saw it, yeah, I got to say that would add a layer that I can't comment on because I haven't had that happen.
Well, my son
Yeah.
is aware. My younger kids, they don't know yet. I don't. I fear the day that they read it and how they're going to take it. You know, I don't know. We'll see.
These things degrade over time, John.
Yeah, not necessarily, because they tend to come back up when people can use it. That's where we get to the cancel culture. Like I said, this thing with David Grush
My dad's
brought up something that hasn't been heard, I haven't heard about in 10 years.
My dad's so cool. A Russian spy tasked with infiltrating the elite of New York chose him. I'm sorry, John. There's a counter narrative. There's a counter narrative. John,
you're a man. You love that.
John,
but
on
it's
your
not-
deathbed, on your deathbed,
Yeah.
on your deathbed. When your little girls bring like a guy home and he thinks he's a big shot, you ever look and go, "Hey, come here, buddy, come here. I know you think you're cool. I dated a Russian. You're James Bond, John."
Yeah. Thanks, John. I'm never gonna get there. I appreciate that you feel the same way, and it does help me laugh about it, because if you don't, you cry.
You're
You know?
James
Yeah,
Bond.
I'm James.
You're
No,
James
actually,
Bondarelli.
now, John, you remember, and then we're gonna end right now. But
right.
John, remember when we were in Hong Kong and we went to the 5 levels,
Oh, God,
and
yeah.
we decided to
Yeah.
go all the way to level 1, I think,
Yeah.
or level 2. I don't think we went to level 1. We went all the way down to level 2,
Yeah.
and we went to that club. And we
Yeah.
had come from somewhere where we had tuxedos on.
Yeah.
And he goes, he looked at me, and he goes, "Yeah, you're in." And then he goes, "Yeah, you could take James Bond in there with you too."
I do remember that. Yeah.
You were James Bond. That wasn't me. He goes, "Yeah, take James Bond with you too."
All right, next time we're going to talk about how we almost got thrown out of Vietnam.
I think that's a great story.
That's our next story.
At least that's an uplifting one.
All right.
Anyway, it's all good. Thanks a lot. Hey, I hope our little story was helpful. The takeaway I hope you take away from it is, if you run into something big, I don't care whether it's cancel culture or professional, anything in life, circle the wagons with your friends and family. The day that it happens is always the worst day, and shortly after that. But over time, you will come to realize that you should not have been that depressed or sad or whatever, because if you're a good person, you're a good person. It doesn't matter what people say about you. And the people who know you will defend you. And I can say that now after years of dealing with this stuff. And, we'll probably deal with this some more, John, but I'm good enough now, strong enough, and I have good friends and I have good family that I think we'll be fine. So anyone of you out there in trouble like that, reach out. I will talk to you, because I've been there. And I mean that sincerely. So take care.
Have a
See
good
you
night.
at the next salon.